Hey everybody, I'm Madalyn Sklar, host of the Social ROI Chat. We had an incredible one today. I'm here with our amazing guest, Shonali Burke. Hey Shonali, how are you?
Madalyn, thank you so much for having me on the chat. It was so much fun. And I am really, really glad I took your advice and I prepped ahead of time. I mean, I always prep, but like I literally
You really
wrote
prep.
out and I really, really prepped. And I'm really glad I did that because the chat moves so fast.
Yeah, because there really is like there's prepping and then there's really prepping and being ready for this
Yes.
chat. It moves so fast. That was such an incredibly quick hour, but we jam-packed it full of great stuff. So I'm really excited to share with the community here all this great content you shared during the chat. It's great because this is kind of like a recap, but it's also continuing the conversation because a lot of people from the chat come on here live with us, or maybe they'll catch the recap later, and we kind of continue with this conversation. Today's topic, which I thought was a really good one, was bringing social PR to life, a how-to guide for marketers. Before we dive in, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am Shonali Burke. I've been in the PR space for more years than I can remember, so we're not going to go there. But I started focusing on kind of, how does how do social technologies impact our work and how do they help to connect people? So the consulting business that I've been running for 10 years now, has focused on that. And before that, I was at agencies and large nonprofits. What really gets me excited about the space that we live in and in which we work is this power of connection and this power of communication that we can do instantly with so many people from around the world, across time zones, thanks to literally the click of a mouse. And so that's what my work focuses on. I also teach at Johns Hopkins University. I'm adjunct faculty for the MA Communication program and at Rutgers. And I host my own chat, Measure PR, which I started back in 2009 because I found people really, really wanted to understand and discuss how you measure public relations. And that's also an area of focus for me. And so I found there wasn't any hashtag for it. And I was like, well, let's just make one. So in a nutshell, that's what I do.
I love that. I love that you have a long-running Twitter chat and you just started it, picked a hashtag, and went. I think that is incredibly awesome. Before we dive in, I do want to mention, for those that don't know, this chat every week is presented by Managed Flitter, and I got a Managed Flitter shirt. You can't really see with me sitting down, but I want to show you guys. I'm so excited to have a Managed Flitter shirt, and hopefully we'll have them available for everybody if you want to get one, but I'm going to kind of stand up a little bit so y'all can see. So,
oh, that's so cool.
So cool. And then on the back, it's really big. But I'm so excited, but I have a jacket on, so it's kind of hard to see it because it's chilly. The other thing I want to mention, and I hope everybody saw this at the beginning of the chat, there is a brand new ebook that Managed Flitter just put out for this social ROI chat. It's phenomenal. If you go over to managedflitter.com and go over to the blog section, it's right at the top. You can go and download it. It's free. And Shonali, this is really cool. And who knows, maybe you'll be in our 2018 edition, but we took 2017, and this is part one, and just took like the best of the Twitter chats and put the tweets in there. It is such an amazing ebook, and we're even thinking about making it a hardcover book at some point. So I want everybody to go download it and let me know what you think, because we're all very, very excited about this. Okay, we got a bunch of people here live with us. So hello to you guys watching live. Thank you for being here. Feel free to hit the share button and share this out so everybody in your Facebook community can see the power of social ROI and all this great information that Shonali is about to share with us. So I want to start with question one on the chat. I thought this was such a really good one because so many people don't really understand. So let's just start with the basics. What is the purpose of social PR?
So remember how I was talking a little bit while ago about a little bit while ago. there's some convoluted English for you. But what excites me about our work now is how we can use social technologies to connect with people instantly in a way we just couldn't before. And that gives a whole other dimension of community to the work that we do. So the purpose of social PR is to really underscore that PR isn't just about publicity, but it's about really connecting with the multiple audiences that we have to work with and that we need to build and maintain mutually beneficial relationships with for mutually beneficial goals. So it's really about putting the community at the center of your work, because the more you can empower people and educate people to tell your story for you, just like you just did, Madalyn, and like you did throughout the chat, and like Managed Fitter has been doing for so many years, the more they're going to go out and be your evangelists and ambassadors, and then your work just starts to become more efficient and optimized.
I love that. That is so incredibly true. What role does social PR play in bringing ideas to life?
I think when it comes to really bringing ideas to life, again, the social aspect is at its core, which is, it was Ken Blanchard, right? And I talked about this on the chat as well, who said, none of us is as smart as all of us. And that is literally true. I was just talking to a friend of mine shortly before the chat and just talking about how you cannot do anything alone. Every single person, even entrepreneurs, even if you're a single person running, your own show, as we have teams, we help each other out, whether it's through colleagues or virtual assistants or other folk who help us. So whatever your big idea is, you have to have people to help you do it. And social PR can really be instrumental from pre-market, when you're testing an idea, when you're testing a product, especially if you start to listen to people who are interested in what you are planning to bring to market. It can help you from a product development point of view, from certainly an influencer seeding point of view, and then actually bringing it to market. Your work doesn't get less, because obviously it's still a lot of work to bring it to market, but you already have a built-in community that's going to help share your story out. And then as you progress through your various marketing phases, as you want to get your big idea even bigger and scale it, the socialized approach is really what's going to help you be more efficient and make better use of your resources.
Right, absolutely. What are some of the misconceptions surrounding social PR?
So one of the biggest things, which really, really drives me nuts, is like when people just go, "Oh, it's social media," and you just slap it on top of PR. It's like, I think you just killed like a fairy or something, because it's not just, "Oh, well, we just did this PR, and can you put this press release out over Twitter?" Like, no, that's not. That's, I think, a big misconception. That's just like, well, just add in social media channels. That's simply tooting your own horn through a bunch of different channels. So I think that's one. Number two is that it's not measurable. And I didn't really talk about this so much on the chat because we only had so much time. But in fact, socializing your work and using digital technologies gives you a better chance at really strong measurement, so that you can really start to gauge engagement and outcomes as well, which is what we all want. And one of the biggest differences for me, and I've mentioned this already a couple of times, is that when it comes to social PR, you're really thinking about the community. You're thinking about how can you approach them, giving them what they need and want. It's not about what you need and want. It's about what they need and want. Your product or your service has to match that, or you've got to find the audience for whom it can best be of service. That's one of the biggest things about it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you 100% on that. So what does a good piece of social PR content look like?
So I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I think
it's okay.
but I think, again, over and above anything else, the content has to be useful. It has to answer questions. It has to serve a need. It has to help them in some way. It has to help them solve problems. And this is true of marketing in general. Good marketing really thinks about who not just who your audience is, but how can your work help them? And I think that's one of the sad parts about the perception of sales to me, because oftentimes people have this knee-jerk reaction about sales. But I think true salespeople, good salespeople, are really looking to help and to be of service, and that's when your sales actually takes off. So I think your content has to be really useful, informative, and then from a visual point of view, you want to make it engaging, whether it is using graphics or, for example, videos. We use a lot of GIFs in our chat today, and people are using.
You used a lot of GIFs.
I did. I love.
You did a great job. I loved it. I was like, what GIF? It made me think to myself, what GIF is she going to use next?
I love it. That's so much fun.
They were good. The broken record one, when you did the record, when you talked about broken record, I was like, that was cute. And the shiny object with the little shiny rock, that was super cool.
Yeah, I love that.
You did good. You did good.
Thank you. But I think over and above all of that, the cleaner you can make it, the more simple you can make it, the easier it's going to be to consume and understand, and the chances of it being more impactful and effective will increase.
Yeah, and you mentioned video before. Do you feel like video is a strong piece of content to use in your marketing?
I think video can be amazing, but you have to do a good job. I mean, like, you have to, you could hire this incredible crew and spend $500,000 creating a corporate video, but if the storyline sucks and if it's boring, you just wasted a whole bunch of money. So I think video can be really, really impactful. But look at, the video we're doing right now. Hopefully I know it's informative, and hopefully it's useful to folks watching, and it's engaging because we're actually having a conversation and we're talking about things that matter to us. I think it all comes down to how you do it, as opposed to just should you do it.
Right, like not shooting so close to the hip that there's no structure, bad audio or bad video, where it's not just at least thought out, and you at least have an outline of what you're doing. You have decent audio and video. But it doesn't have to be like the highest value production out there that costs thousands of dollars,
exactly.
Just for video.
Exactly. And especially for social platforms, you don't have to do that. I mean, literally, our phones have such great cameras built in now. A while back, and I got really obsessed with figuring out my own little mobile studio so that I could, go do interviews and stuff when I was at conferences and things. And I tested a whole bunch of things. I came up with this whole, your studio for under $200, from a lavalier mic that you could carry with you to, I just bought a tripod not too long ago for $20 or something like that. Uh-huh. And now there's so many options, from lights, stuff that just plugs into your iPhone, like lighting and filters and everything. So I think especially for social mediums, it's probably better if you're just getting started to start small and to test with a basic setup and then go big, especially if you're looking to get into, I know a lot of organizations still want to get into Facebook advertising and, and advertising on other platforms as well. Start small because you don't know what's going to work. And sometimes it can take a long time to test.
I totally agree. And I's making a good point that you don't need a super expensive studio to do videos. What's interesting right now, you've got Amy Porterfield and Pat Flynn and Michael Hyatt, like some of the high-end top social media and marketing gurus are putting together these elaborate studios to do video. Like, they're going all in on video this year. And so they built these elaborate studios. And when the rest of us smaller marketers look at this, it's like, well, wait a minute. Do we need to go and emulate them? Do we need to go spend crazy amounts of money having these fancy studios when you're right? I mean, we have the capability of doing this with our phone. When I think back to all of the equipment I used to have to carry with me to just do a video back in the olden days. And when I say olden days, it's not really that long ago, right? Yeah. But our phones are so powerful and the quality is amazing that we can shoot really great video. And that really, for those that are just getting started, you can just use your phone and put it on the tripod. Like you said, you get a $20 tripod. I got a lavalier mic for $20. One of the audio video experts that I met at Social Media Marketing World says that this $20 one that I bought on Amazon is just as good as the more expensive one. So I followed his advice, and it does sound good. So you can really save a lot of money and do this in a way where you can put out really, really good, high quality content. So I really love how the playing field has gotten level.
Absolutely. And that's a great thing about our time. I feel like, I'm not the one who said this first. I heard it from Dino Dogan, our friend who founded Triber. Like, we're in a revolutionary age, and there has not been a revolution in information like this since the Gutenberg press. And he said that a few years ago when we had him in the DC area to speak at an event. And it's so true. Like, it's just the way that content has been democratized. Of course, now we're going at a whole different level with AI and everything. And so it's like, tons of revolutions in our lifetime. But content creation and dissemination is really, anyone can do it as long as you have an internet connection, obviously, and
right.
some form of creation some way to create that content.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, Jim's making this really interesting point here. When we were having the big floods here in Houston, I was just getting out my iPhone and using Facebook Live, just kind of really documenting for myself, but sharing, like, here's what's happening, and really being able to share content like that, like reporter on the scene kind of thing, which is really interesting. There's so many different types of content. I mean, we could talk all day about it. We won't do that, but we could. I want to back up for a minute. When we were talking about question number 3, that was back to the misconceptions. It was something I had wanted to bring up. I had made a note I didn't want to forget. In one of your answers, you talked about social karma, and I thought that was really interesting. Can you talk a little bit about it? Because I think it was a really neat point you were making.
Thank you. So this is going to be my 10-year anniversary on Twitter. So, as far as folk like you, Madalyn, thank you. As far as folk like you are concerned, you were earlier, and I don't consider myself as an original techie person. I kind of fell into it. But for PR, I was certainly an early adopter. And I was like, I had no clue what was going on, right? For like the first 6 months, I didn't even realize that Twitter had a DM function. And I went into my DM box. I was like, oh my goodness, there are all these DMs waiting for me here. But people were so kind and so helpful. Like, when I started my blog, I had no clue what I was doing. But I knew that I needed to test that stuff because, I had the time back then. I had just come out of my big job at the ASPCA, and I was kind of figuring out what I do next. And people were so helpful. And I just saw, I think, hopefully we are naturally helpful people by nature. But, and so I've certainly been involved in my community, offline, IABC, PRSA for decades. And I've always tried to give back. But online, it becomes very easy to sit behind the screen and make it all about you. What are you getting? Like, Did you follow me back? Did you give me this? Did you give me that? Did you sign up? Maybe not, but does that not mean that we can still have a conversation? So inbuilt for me into social PR is the idea of giving back and really putting the needs of your community first, looking for what you can do for others, as opposed to what can you do for me. And it can sound kind of new agey and cliched, but it works. It works ironically because you're not going out asking for people to do something for you all the time right off the bat.
Right.
You're really focusing on how you can engage, how you can interact, how you can build a relationship, how you can be of service to someone. And I really, somebody used that word, how can I be of service to you, a few years ago with me. And it really means a lot to me. So when I say, how can I be of service, I really mean, how can I be of service? Now, then it's up to you. If you come back and give me like 500 things to do, I'm going to get overwhelmed and I won't be able to do one of them. So I always follow that up with, give me specifically 1 or 2 things that I can help you with, because then I know how I can help and I feel like this is something I can do. So social karma, where you're using social platforms to give and receive in a karmic way, is really built into social PR, because that's what leads you to put the needs of the community first. And if you do that, then you're going to create a product or a service that is of greater value and that people will use. And that's going to come back to benefit you.
So incredibly true. I love that. I think that's a huge takeaway for today is definitely the social karma. I wanted to ask you, what tools are you recommending marketers use when they're getting started with their social PR?
So the biggest tool I want marketers to use, and it's also one of the biggest muscles in the body, is their brains. Because half the time they go out and they're like, oh, let's do this and let's do that, but they're not actually thinking about what the outcomes are. So you've got to focus on that, right? You can't just run after every shiny new toy. You really got to think about what you're trying to do and work backwards from the end. And then after that, it really depends on what your needs are. I kind of came up with this 7C social PR framework a couple of years ago, and I've talked about how, one of them is collaboration, and that means how do you work together with people? So, look at us collaborating over an internet-based platform right now. Some of the basics, I think, would be, tools like Asana or Trello or Basecamp. There's so many more these days. But it really depends on what it is you're looking to do. If you want to find a smart way to manage Twitter, you check out Manage Flitter. If you want a smart way to put in place a listening program and you're just kind of getting started, look at setting up alerts through different search engines or TalkWalker. I love TalkWalker. I have zero vested interest in giving that information out. But I just think, it's a really neat tool and it's got some really great search capabilities, and you just start with that. If what you need is to find your tribe, as it were, maybe set up a hashtag search on Twitter. I think Twitter is a great tool that people don't really use enough, especially in terms of searches, in terms of intelligence gathering, and in terms of community building. So it really depends on what you need to do. But I think the most important things are know why you're doing it and make sure you are listening to your audience or potential audience if you're just getting started, because until and unless you have some way of really listening in on the conversation, you're not going to start to understand how to serve them and what you can do to serve them, which then leads to your strategy. After that is where the tools come in.
Right. Great tools you mentioned. Big fan of them all. TalkWalker I've been trying out, really like it a lot. But I also use Mention. I've been a big fan of Mention for listening and getting, putting in like your name or a hashtag and getting really good results. Manage Flitter, I just want to say, not to do make it all about Manage Flitter, but let's make it about Manage Flitter for a moment. I love Twitter's advanced search, but Manage Flitter has this great ability to do what they call the power mode. Power mode, am I saying it right? You have the ability to do these incredible searches, and you can really hone in more than you can doing advanced search. And I think advanced search is amazing, but you can go in even more through Manage Flitter, and it's really amazing. And an example, and I talked about it, I was on content writing chat. Is that the right content writing chat as the guest this morning? And I was talking about this. So an example would be I'm going to be at Social Media Marketing World next month, and maybe I want to go search for people talking about the conference. The hashtag is SMMW18. So I can actually plug in and put all these parameters in of okay, I want people who are not following me and that I'm not following and that are talking about this hashtag. And maybe I want people that are more talkative, not quiet, and have a profile picture. All these parameters I can put in there and have the ability to get a very specific group of people that are brands that I'm searching for. I think that's so incredibly powerful to have the ability to do that through tools, and it's knowing the right tools, to help you do that.
Absolutely. Well, I'd love to test Manage Flitter, but
I think I can help with that.
Thank you. You gotta know people.
You really do. That's why I love collaborations. Collaborating with other people is so valuable when you get, people know people, right? So like when we collaborate, that opens me up to the ability to, have you possibly refer me to other people you work with in business and vice versa. I've been a huge fan of collaborations for years. And, this all ties into everything we're talking about and doing here is that, through social media, having the ability to make connections with people. That's how you and I met. Zala and I, who are both here right now on the live chat, rave about you and said, you've got to meet Shonali. You've got to talk to her. She's amazing and is somebody you should know. And after getting to know you and learning all about you, it's like, okay, you're so perfect to come on this chat today and talk about this subject that I think is something that's important for our community to know more about. And so the last thing I want to bring up before we end this is, who's out there? What brands are doing a great job at this that we can go look at and say, okay, these guys are doing social PR really well. Who do you recommend we go look at?
I think, first of all, thank you for the kind words. And likewise, I was just so happy. And it's kind of like how did we not connect before? Like, we know so many people in common, and you and Cami are good friends, and Cami and I are friends. And it's like, how did we not know each other before this? But anyway, I think, the great thing is that so many brands have been learning relatively quickly over the last few years. So especially many of the larger brands, Best Buy, Wendy's is always hilarious. Coke does a really good job, I think. It's at the London Museum or the Natural History Museum in London. Remember when they got into that spat over, whose dinosaur was bigger or something like that? I love it when brands do that, and people love it because they see this human face and the human side of the brand. Kevin was talking earlier about how ManageFlitter went in very early on to really listen for and find influencers and seed them. That's really, really a smart thing to do, and the way to do it. My former client, Tracker, TRAACKR, and I always spell it out because, of the other Tracker.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're so awesome. And they had exactly the same approach. In fact, they approached me back, like, I want to say 2009-ish, to start testing their platform. And I was like, no, I'm too busy. And then they were exhibiting at the PRSA conference in DC. And then they reached back out and said, we're going to be in DC. You're speaking at the conference. Would you come by and check us out? And I felt I have to say yes because it would be so rude to say no. And I went, and I was blown away by the software and what you could do with it. And then over time, they were so generous, letting me use their software for the Blue Key campaign. And then I just became a fan. And I wasn't necessarily being paid to do it. I was paid certainly to create their Academy of Influencer Marketing. That was a project because they know of my love for education. But it took years to get to that point. And, that's what smart brands are doing, I think. I do feel badly for Tide right now with all the kids trying to eat Tide Pods. What's up with kids these days? I mean, seriously, guys, come on. But in general, I think brands are starting to do a much better job, or at least they know that they need to up their engagement.
Right. Totally agree. Those are all like really good brands you mentioned. This has been so great, Shonali. I really appreciate you taking time today to do our extended after chat and doing the live stream video. It was so much fun because, when we're on Twitter, it just feels like texting. None of us see each other. We're just like on our computers or on our phones typing away like crazy. And it's so nice to come over here on video and get to see everybody post comments that are here with us, but they get to see us and feel more connected to the chat. So it's always a pleasure to bring on our guests, and you have been just wonderful today. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
First of all, thank you and ManageFlitter and Zala, because Zala started this thread. So if she hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here. Thank you all so much for having me. I've had a blast, and I really, really appreciate your generosity of time and spirit. And as far as connecting with me, at Shonali on Twitter, SHONALI, or ShonaliBurke.com, where you can read my blog, you can, check it out and look at the other stuff that I have going on, a whole bunch of stuff. So rather than tell you all about it, I would love for you to go check it out. And you want to talk to me, always just at message me or DM me, and I'd love to chat with anyone.
That's awesome.
Unless you're gonna like be a troll or something, then I'll block you.
Yeah, no troll.
I'm guessing people here are not trolls.
No troll. No, not here. No. Don't worry about that. You're safe. You're among friends.
I'm safe. I'm in the cocoon.
You are most definitely. This is such a great community of people here, as I think you saw today.
Yes.
Really great group of people. I am just so honored to be a part of this. So thank you, Shonali, so much for your time. Thank you for everybody who's here all the way to the end with us. Next week, we are excited to have Megan Monahan, who actually was on the chat. I don't know if you guys noticed, she was there today chatting along with us. I think that was so cool that she came on and was just being a participant. So we'll have her with us next week. So until then, we'll see you out on Twitter. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.